So, I was thinking about learning through music transcription, and more specifically about the way we absorb the information after transcribing. And that made me realize that there are basically these three levels of musical integration that we can put that information through. So, at the surface level, we have the level of replication, which simply means that you are able to play whatever you've transcribed. And you would only stop at this level if your only objective is to gain insight in the how instead of the what. So you're, researching a player's phrasing or a way of handling dynamics or his feel or timing. But usually we transcribe a musical device to be able to use it in our own work, right? Whether as a composer or improviser or both. So that leads us to the second level, which is the level of transposition. And here we just take that bit of information and we put it through 12 keys. And while these first two levels are important and even necessary, my guess is that most people, myself included, stop at level 2. And while you are probably able to use that bit of information in your own playing, you can probably only really use it exactly as you've transcribed it. You're still dealing with the execution level of the idea instead of the concept level of the idea. So if you want to take it even further, you need to go deeper and you need to go to the last and third level, which is the level where you analyze and extrapolate. We have to have a deep theoretical understanding of what we do in that bit of information. Reason being that you then extrapolate these data points, if you will, through your analysis and put these through every kind of musical variation or situation you can think of. And this third level is really probably the only level where you can truly say that you are making something your own. And so you can test and bend and break and, play around with it basically, because you understand the overarching concept of it. So to put money where my mouth is and to make things a bit less vague, let's go back to the piece I played at the start and take this tiny bit of information and put it through that third level and see what that would look like. I want to focus on the first two bars. And even more so, I want to focus on the enclosure that happens in the alto part of the right hand. So this. And I can see that these two bars are a 2-5 in B major, with the 5 being swapped by its tritone. So instead of F sharp dominant 7, we get C dominant 7. Jacky starts the melody on the 9th, and more importantly, he starts the enclosure on the diatonic 7th below the melody. So if we're in B major, that means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He starts the enclosure on the E in this case. The enclosure is up a second, up a third, down a third, and up a second, leading to that G sharp. And the first thing that comes to mind, putting this to work, if we know that the enclosure starts on the diatonic 7th below the melody, that would mean that I could start the melody on a 1 and then deduce that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The enclosure would start on a D sharp. So it would be that. So I made this list where I transposed this enclosure with the melody on top through every scale degree. And for starters, I kept the chords intact. So I'm still using a 2-5, but I'm cycling between the original 5 and the substituted 5. Yeah, so this is the 1 in the melody. The 2. Then the 6. And then finally the 7th. So this is just being able to play over the same 2-5 in B major, but over every scale degree. My next step would probably be to transpose this to the 12 other keys, but also being able to use this over different cadences. So I also want to be able to play this over a 5-1 and on a single static chord, you know. So the third stage is pretty much endless, and it all depends on what you want to get out of it and what it sort of asks for. And that depends on, you know, your own wishes in that and your own creativity. So as a final thought, I have some different explorations with the enclosure. So the first thing is to alter the enclosure. And I could, for instance, invert the whole thing. So instead of that, I would do this. Same thing, just flipped, inverted. So you get that. Okay, so the second thing that I'm thinking of is to double the enclosure with parallel intervals in the tenor voice. So you get something like this. Right? So you get this nice Bach-like texture. I'm using parallel intervals of a 6. Again, you do what you want to do, so you can experiment with different intervals there. And finally, we've kept the enclosure purely diatonic, but there's no reason to. You can also add chromatics. Right? Just to illustrate a few other possibilities to do with the enclosure. So I hope you got something out of this, and yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are about this. So let me know in the comments, and take care.